Hi, my name's Paul Cowell. Welcome to Episode 1, Series 1, The Student Family. There are 5 episodes in the series. Each episode deals with issues related to student life.
And I'm Celia. Hopefully you know a bit about me from Instagram already, but if not, check us out, give us a follow, the link is below. We're also on Twitter and TikTok. We invite past, present and future students to share their experiences and make a contribution.
I'm Raheela and hopefully you've seen me on Instagram and the other various socials with Celia, but if not, hi. So the first section of the show is going to be uni life, and this is just where we provide some sort of simple explanations of things that are more relevant to the academic side of university. And what we really want to do is sort of open up the discussion with you guys rather than just sending you to some sort of electronic link.
And in this episode, we're discussing plagiarism and referencing. Well, what is plagiarism? It's fairly easy to say, really. It's stealing, and you don't do it. But it's more than that, of course. It's much more than that. Because plagiarism is basically using somebody else's work as if it is your own work. It's like people who copy works of art and sell it off as their own, or they copy styles of somebody else. Well, yeah, you can sort of be influenced, but it's not, copying is quite different. You must not copy academic journal articles, okay? You must never ever do that, because plagiarism is something that, well, I have experienced where students have actually been thrown out of the university, and it's a black mark against you because you'll never get another university place if you're caught plagiarising. So please do not plagiarise. However, there are things that students typically do which leads them down the path of plagiarism, sometimes without really realising it. And the other thing that I have to point out to you is that this idea of copying the works of others in some cultures is actually quite acceptable, but not in UK universities. You should not copy other people's work and pass it off as your own. Yes, you can read it, and it's great that you're reading the other people's work, but you must not do it. Now, how do students do it? What they tend to do, they will, as see this article here, they will shade a large part of the article, copy and paste it, and then when it comes to their work, they'll just change the odd word. Well, it's amazing how that happens and how many students get caught doing that. The other thing that some students do, and it's quite all right to quote, they will quote a small section, but actually not put it in inverted commas and not quote correctly and reference correctly. So this is really important that you engage in correct referencing and correct procedure. And I don't want you to be caught plagiarising, because it's no good to you, and in the end, I'll tell you why at the end of this. It's no good to you, and it's no good to you for your learning. So, why do we reference? Well, the reason is that academics believe that all knowledge is based on existing knowledge. And what you have to do is recognise and identify the existing knowledge that you've used for your work. And this is very important. This goes back to what I've said in a previous video about reading around. You can only gain the existing knowledge if you have actually engaged in the wider reading. So it's so important that you look at the existing knowledge and engage in the wider reading. So when you look at an article, do you need to read the whole article? Well, no, you do not. Quite often you can get the feel for the article in the actual abstract that the author has written. Very easy. They say some key points, but even if you don't rely on that, you can certainly find a lot of the thinking of the author in the introduction, and certainly the discussion of their research work. Now, can I say to you, you do not need to read, unless you're a PhD student, you do not need to read all the research methodology. All you're looking for is what is the key point that the author is making about the topic under discussion. Now, I often get students say, well, I'm doing something on, I don't know, marketing of chocolate biscuits, and I cannot find anything on the marketing of chocolate biscuits about well, it might be a bit more specific, I'll say the marketing mix of chocolate biscuits. But there are lots of academic journal articles on the marketing mix. And I say, it doesn't matter whether it's about chocolate biscuits, it might be about marketing dresses, I don't know, it could be anything. The key thing is that authors will say within their academic journal article what they think about marketing, and of course they may apply it to dresses and not chocolate biscuits, but you get the point. You don't have to have something specifically related to your topic. So you can read the introduction, look at the abstract, and just see what the key points are that the author is making about the topic under investigation. That's quite an important phrase to use, the topic under investigation, your topic under investigation. So going back to it, might have been the marketing mix. That might be your topic under investigation. However, I've done an example for you here, and the topic under investigation is market segmentation. So what I've done, I have looked at 3 or 4 academic journals and had a look at what the authors have said about the concept of market segmentation, and then synthesized in my own words. And if you see this, look at this example, you can see I've put in my own words what these different authors have said about the theory of segmentation. Now, the other thing that you're looking for is you won't get, a lot of students think you will find advantages, disadvantages, opposing views. You will get some opposing views in the literature, and it's good that you read about the opposing views. But what you're more likely to get, and what you should look for, is where there are similarities or slight differences about the same thing. That's what you're looking for, and that's what I've done with this example you can see on screen in terms of market segmentation. Now, the other thing that you really need to do is to make sure you use safe sources. The best way is the University Online Library for academic journal articles. What you should never use is Wikipedia, because you don't know it's true. It could be, and probably a lot of it is, but there's no verification, because the only people who verify what's on Wikipedia are Wikipedians who are not experts. They don't claim to be. They just claim to be interested in the topic. So that's the first thing. So don't trust Wikipedia. You can't trust it. I would not use things like MBA School or Tutor2You, because those are sites that are trying to make money out of you in one way or another. So don't use them. Just focus on the academic journal articles. Now, you can use Google Scholar. The only problem with Google Scholar is the more recent articles may not be available online. However, if your university subscribe, you will probably be able to click through. You'll have to register, using your university username and password, etc., if you want to look at the full article. But Google Scholar is quite good for the broad view, but what I would do, ask your academic which are the main databases that they'd recommend for you to use for searching for journal articles related to your particular area of studies. They will tell you, I'm sure they will. So, don't forget, you must use safe sources. So why is referencing and not plagiarizing important to you in the long run? Well, very important. Firstly, you don't want to go out of university with a degree which you obtained through false pretenses. That won't look good for you, and it won't look good for the university. But much more importantly, employers today expect university students to think for themselves. They don't want you to copy. They don't want you to keep asking what do I do and copy somebody else. You have to think for yourself. So this thing about not plagiarizing, reading academic journal articles, synthesizing in your own words can only benefit you in the future. Well, Celia, how did you manage when you started at university and you got that word plagiarism?
I mean, I feel like it was always very scary. You were always really nervous, trying not to plagiarize. But then I think coming into university, I wasn't exactly aware of exactly what plagiarism was. I didn't realize paraphrasing could be plagiarism. I think it's quite you get used to it, but I think you need to work at it. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I think the big danger is for plagiarism is when students copy and paste and then change the odd word. That is really
definitely a no-no.
No, it is a no-no, and I think students do it often because they're not confident in their academic language. But I think it's much better actually to use your own language rather than think, well, I'm not good on the academic language, because it's worse to be caught plagiarism because it's a serious offence. Because basically, as I said in my video, it's stealing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
How do you manage with referencing, Raheela?
So I think that there's like a few little things that you should take into consideration when you're referencing, and like the main ones are just sort of make sure that you're consistent with it and you know what sort of style you need to use beforehand. And also,
when you say style, do you mean in terms of whether it's a Harvard or
know what you're going to be doing beforehand? Because if you like do it all the wrong way, this might be a bit of a pain just to change all the references at the end.
Yeah.
And also just instead of leaving it all till the end, just like do it throughout, because there was a lot of assignments where I left it till the end, and like you get to the end and it's like, why did like past me just not do it? Like, why have I? It's the worst. And I also think that although it's not too difficult to sort of write them yourself, it's completely okay to use an online resource. Like there's different websites that you can use where you can just like copy and paste the heading of the article, and then it'll sort of generate the reference in whatever style you want.
And how to do it, yeah. Can I just make a point there? In actual fact, Raheela's just made a very important point. We're talking about referencing in general, but each discipline has a particular way of referencing, and it's important that you communicate with your lecturer to ensure that you're using the right referencing method. So, for example, in business, we generally use Harvard referencing. They've all got names. I can't remember all the names. Chicago's one.
APA is one that
there's quite a lot of them. And one of the main differences is whether you use a number system or a by alphabetical order when you're listening your references. And have you ever had a situation where you've been asked to use two different types of referencing styles, even though you're a material scientist, so you know there's a standard system?
I remember that there was this one piece of coursework that me and Celia both did, and we used the exact same referencing type, but I'm fairly certain
I got marked down for it. I remember that.
and they didn't say anything to me. I got full marks for the referencing. So a lot of the things is like, it will just, sometimes it does depend on who's marking it, but as long as you're just sort of aware of it.
But was it, can I say, was it a consistent method? I mean, as I say, business, they tend to use the Harvard style. Was it for your materials?
So,
as scientists, was it a particular style you consistently
I think generally we use the Harvard method,
right?
But it depended on the individual lecturer. So I think if you're ever unsure about it, like definitely go to your lecturer and check and just ask, because I feel like that's a simple way to get rid of the problem immediately. So,
can I just emphasise that again about going to see your lecturer, because I know as a lecturer myself that students seem to be terribly reluctant to ask me questions, and you must ask. We're paid money to look after you, so please ask questions.
Right.
Okay then, so I think we've covered quite a few things there, and important, of course, with my video that we segmented to, that will help us, the viewers, with their referencing and their plagiarism. But you have a few points to reinforce to the viewers.
Yeah, so I think the main thing with plagiarism is make sure you understand the content. I think what lecturers and everyone wants to see is that you understand what you've read. So I think a good thing is to maybe like read it, understand the concepts, go away for a bit, and then come back and write your actual work. So once you have the concept, you're less likely to use the exact words, but you still know what you're saying. So that's my tip. Plagiarism.
And your tip, Raheela?
So when it comes to referencing, I would say just don't leave it till the end is like the main thing. Like it's really annoying to do it like throughout, but it's even more, it's just a lot worse if you leave it till the end. And also just sort of like be consistent and know what you're going to be referencing about. I think another one is also look at the source that you have and make sure that it's a reliable source that you're referencing as well. So you actually have like a good source of information.
Okay, well thanks for that, thank you.
So in every episode we will be providing tips on managing money. In this episode, it's yellow labels.
This is my local Tesco Extra. I'm going to go and see now if I can find some yellow stickers. I managed to get my yellow stickers last week from Morrison's. Now I'm going to try Tesco and see if I can get anything. It's just around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Quite often you can get some bargains at this time of the afternoon, although the cheapest at 8 o'clock at night. Trouble is that they are often the very, 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 very leftovers. Of course, just to let you know, other supermarkets are available, and I'm not favouring Tesco. Well, I was hoping to actually do a little sort of a film when I'm inside Tesco, but there are so many people around, I thought it'd look a bit strange, me talking to myself and trying to talk to you and pretending I'm talking to you at the same time. So anyway, you know, you never know how lucky you can be. You can see I've got quite a lot of things here. Those fish, which I love, salmon, loads of them. I've got 5 of them. I could have got more, but I wouldn't have space in my freezer. And they were less than half price. That's because they had a lot, I suspect. But fantastic. Let me tell you, if I'd have paid the full price for this little lot, it would have cost me £58.80. I'm not going to ask you to guess how much that I saved by buying these yellow stickers, and all of them can go in the... Well, some of the things I'll have to use fairly quickly. I mean, the biscuits, Mr. Kipling cakes will last a while. Those is okay. And the other thing is, you know, these sell-by dates, how shall I put it? They're very liberal with the dates. They probably last a lot longer than the dates say. Anyway, £58.80 would have been originally. £28.74 at the discounted price. That's an incredible £30.16. Now I wish I could save that every week, because that'd be £1,500. But I would say last week I think it was about £13 I saved. So I would say that let's take an average of £20 a week. I'm still saving around £1,000 a year, I beg your pardon, by buying yellow stickers. So I hope you can go yellow sticker hunting. Okay, yellow labels. Are you a yellow label hunter?
I feel like not exactly, but I like to see what there is. So I feel like I'd go to the yellow label section, see if there's anything that tickles my fancy, and then yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Have you bought anything recently in the yellow label section that you can think of?
No.
No? So you're not like me, when every time I go shopping I make a beeline for the yellow label counter.
I did go, but there was nothing, because sometimes you get like squash things. There was nothing. There were a few pizzas that I considered, but they went off the same day, and I was like, maybe not. Maybe I don't want pizza today.
Do you not put them in the freezer?
Not if they go off on the same day. I do. I tend to sometimes, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think the point about yellow labels is that they are greatly reduced, and as you saw in my videos, I mean, I saved £30 on. I think it was £30 in one of the shops I did, and it's a by chance. You just never know when you can get them. I mean, I don't actually think, right, I'm going yellow label shopping, or I'm going shopping for yellow labels. I'll just go and look for the yellow labels when I'm passing the place. So, for example, there's a Tesco on Lime Street Station in Liverpool, and I can go in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've got bargains. I got some chicken which was reduced from £4 to £1. Yeah. So you just do it by chance, really.
Yeah, I think it's also really good for like sandwiches. Like if you just want like a meal deal or something, the reduced ones are quite good, because you just go like grab it. You know you're going to eat it that same day, and it'll be good. And I do think it was really impressive how much you saved. So I feel like I'd be more on it now in the yellow label section.
To be honest with you, I actually have never added up how much I save until I recorded those videos, and I was really astonished myself at how much I saved. Well, I can tell you now, I live on my own, in a flat on my own, and I spend between £20 and £25 a week on food and household things. So I'm pretty economical. Frugal even, yeah. Anyway, what are the tips for yellow labels?
I think for me, just personally, what I do with yellow labels is that I go to the yellow label section first, see if there's anything that I want, and then get that. So usually I get like protein, so meats. And then I'd get other things to go with it to make a meal, and I think that's always really good because you don't need to go and buy everything in the yellow label section, but I do think if you could switch out something that you could get in the regular section for a reduced version, it's really good.
Yeah, and I'd say it's like, so a lot of it will be going out of date on that same day, but the dates are like, they're pretty much just made up. It's not like at the stroke of midnight, it's just suddenly going to turn to mould. Like, it's worth just using a little bit of common sense and just like looking at it and seeing like, is this off or not? And then sort of just using your common sense around that side of things.
Actually, you've just reminded me, before we finish this section, you just reminded me, I actually got some lettuce. I forgot there's loads of different types of lettuce, but there were 2 in a packet that were reduced to about 30 pence from over £1, and I got 4 and they're on the sell-by date, and they're still in my fridge, and this is 2 or 3 weeks later, and they're in perfect condition. Perfect condition. Anyway, on to the next part of the programme. Raheela.
So, as recently graduated students, Celia and I have learnt a lot about sustainability, and we know it's something that sort of concerns everyone out there. It does concern me and Celia as well. For Series 1, we're going to be exploring the subject and what it means to all of us, and we're also going to be exploring modern slavery and sort of ways in which that we can become more aware of it. So Paul's done an interview with Dr Amy Benstead, which we'll watch now.
Amy, terms such as sustainability and modern slavery are bandied around a lot. Actually, do we understand what we mean by that, and what do you think they mean?
Yeah, I don't think everyone necessarily knows what they mean. I think, like you say, I think they're definitely a buzzword at the moment. I think in terms of sustainability, people understand environmental sustainability a lot more. I think because it's tangible. You've got things like, David Attenborough, and you've got quite well-known like TV programs, and you've got quite well-known imagery where you might see, I don't know, an animal and something plastic, or straws or plastic in the sea. So I think people are becoming a lot more aware about that, and I think that's obviously environmental sustainability. When it comes to social sustainability and people, I still think that there is a gap in terms of what people understand by that, because it's not as tangible. And I think people often forget, if we take clothing, for example, you don't often think, who made my clothes? You don't often think a person is behind it and a person made it. I think maybe in the pandemic, it became a little bit more kind of well known, because there was reports in the media about exploitation and workers suffering because orders were cancelled, and we had issues in the UK as well. But I still think there's a lack of understanding when it comes to social sustainability, and then linked to that modern slavery, which is the exploitation of people anywhere within the supply chain, making all kinds of products or services. And I don't think people understand that slavery is still an issue. I think they often think it's something that happened in the past, but it's very much happening now.
This sort of seem emotional words. How can we take the emotional side out of this concept of modern slavery and be more sort of rational and think rationally? Or is that not possible? Or what do you think?
Anything that involves people, there is that kind of emotional attachment, and I think probably that's what we need. We probably need that emotion in it. We probably we don't connect necessarily, and I think that's a big problem. A lot of the things that we buy, for example, are made on the other side of the world, and I think a lot of the time it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. Having said that, in the pandemic there was issues with like Boohoo making clothing in Leicester, and it was all over the news. It was an open secret, and then during the pandemic it came to light that people were working in exploitative working conditions in the UK. But I don't think necessarily, even though it was more on our doorstep, maybe it made people think, oh, that's happening here in the UK, but consumer behaviour didn't really change that much. So it didn't really have a lasting effect. So I think people don't often make that connection, or they do separate it a bit too much. And we probably do need to actually think, other people are in a bad situation for kind of things that we are purchasing.
Basically, it's our actions, isn't it, that we need to review. Can I just take you back? I thought you did a very interesting point. You sort of linked sustainability, social sustainability, and then into modern slavery. Now, could you just say a little bit more of what you mean about social sustainability? That was an interesting link you made there.
So social sustainability is considering that people, if we think about sustainability, and then, like I said, lots of people think about the environment, but the social sustainability is thinking about how people are impacted, and like their working conditions. So if you think about when they're working in a factory, for example, is it safe for them to go to work every day? We've had issues where there's been fires in factories or building collapses, and why is this happening? Why are people going to work and it's not safe? Or are they working long hours? Are they working too long? Are they working overtime? Maybe they're not getting paid if they're overtime. It also includes things like, are they actually being paid the minimum wage or a living wage? Kind of the list goes on.
To what extent do you think, if we take a more sustainable approach to our consumption, to what extent do you believe that will help and change things in terms of social sustainability and modern slavery? In other words, do you think the sustainability, the concept of us thinking sustainable, actually, once we start doing that, will have a trickle-down effect, for want of a better phrase?
I think, it kind of all starts with each one of us. I think we can all help make a difference. And if we all do a little something, it's all going to help. It's really complex, obviously. It's not going to be solved overnight, but I think if we can start making more conscious decisions, and we put, brands under pressure, and we start being a lot more inquisitive in terms of who we buy from and where we buy from, and then the brands are aware that people are more interested in what's happening. But there's like two approaches, because there's that top-down approach where the brands are trying to, they might try and improve the supply chain and sustainability, but we also need kind of a bottom-up approach. We need to give like workers a voice as well, in terms of kind of what their reality is and what's happening on the ground, and try and understand how they can be supported and how they can be empowered.
Well, that was quite a long video clip from Amy, and she covered quite a few things regarding sustainability, social sustainability, and modern slavery. Well, what do you think about it? What are your thoughts watching it?
I think it was a really good point that she made, that we've always been flooded with environmental sustainability. So when you think about it, you automatically think like green, recycle, let's do this. But the social part of it is also something that's really important. So I like that she kind of brought that to the forefront and didn't ignore it, because I think it is kind of ignored sometimes. So I like that she did that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And when I think of sustainability, I do automatically think of the environmental side rather than the social side. And I think a lot of it is sort of what we've been advertised with. So like you see a lot of adverts around sort of the environmental sustainability, but a lot less around sort of social sustainability. And I think another thing is that it's quite a new topic. Not that it's new in when it's occurring, but we've only recently started to become a lot more aware of it, if that makes sense.
Do you think this might be because with modern slavery, it's something that we try to not believe happens? Whereas, you get a lot, look at, I've been watching Blue Planet 2 with Attenborough, and basically he says it's up to us whether we stop the ice melting in the ice cap. but we don't get that sort of hard-hitting thing from on modern slavery, do you? Is it because it's not palatable to us? Because actually, we are, by buying products, quite often we are engaging in helping the practice of modern slavery. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think it's really kind of like, it's easier to stomach the environment, because like I think a lot of the time like you're watching like films and it's just showing you like how beautiful the environment is and like the horrible things that we've done, but there's kind of like almost a positive aspect, like we can change it, like we can make changes in our lives to do this. And I just think people don't, it's not a very nice thing to swallow when you think that slavery is still happening. I think you like to think that that's in the past, we've moved on, we've gone on from that, and we haven't exactly, have we?
No, not at all, really.
And I think Amy also made a good point around the tangibility of environmental sustainability, and how even though we're aware of modern slavery and that side of things, we don't really know the extent of it. So it's a bit hard to sort of measure and be aware of.
It is hidden and sort of like kept under wraps.
I thought that was an interesting point by Amy, because I know, of course, you're a material scientist, and there was a lot done about sustainable materials. But actually, in our conversation, you not really referred to the sustainable materials as such. You've thought about not producing stuff that's sustainable, but you think, what do we do after it's been made? And that again, I think, is what most people think. How can we stop polluting the atmosphere? But we don't actually think necessarily about making things that are more sustainable.
Yeah, I do think it is the whole thing, like when you think about sustainable materials, it is the whole life cycle that you need to take into consideration. So I think, I mean, that's long, no one wants to hear about that.
Thank you everyone for watching. This is episode 1 of series 1, but if we get a good reaction from you guys, we can do more in the future. And do let us know if there's any topics in particular that you'd like us to discuss.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Student Family and interact with us on Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. And see you for episode 2.
Bye.